A very good evening to all our viewers. Today is the 23rd of August 2021. You're watching Primetime News on TV1. For the Newsfirst team, I'm Yuki Pasha. Let's start off with a look at your headlines for tonight.
Newsfirst headlines. Main sponsor.
Valuable Finance, best finance company.
Perahara of the Sacred Temple of the Tooth concluded. Cabinet decides to donate the August salary of all cabinet members to the COVID-19 fund. SJB and SLPP also decide to donate salaries to the effort to combat COVID-19. Letter issued by constituent parties to lock down the country draws criticism from the SLPP. Richard Baldwin named as a suspect in another court case. Probe underway for allegedly threatening a prison's doctor.
Newsfirst headlines. Main sponsor.
Valuable Finance, best finance company.
Starting off with your top story for tonight, President Gotabaya Rajapaksa reiterates there exists a plethora of national responsibilities and duties which cannot be disregarded despite any tragedy the country faces. The President expressed these sentiments at the ceremony to announce the successful completion of the historic Temple of the Tooth ceremony, which was held at the President's house in Kandy this evening.
Devadana Nilame of the Temple of the Tooth, Pradeep Nilangadala, presented to the President the Asala Perahara Sandesha today, which marks the successful completion of the Kandy Asala Perahara, widely regarded the country's most colourful cultural festival. President Rajapaksa said the country has a long history of responsibilities and duties that cannot be abandoned in the face of any challenges or obstacles, adding, ancient rulers had placed in high regard sacred offerings made to the Temple of the Tooth. Thereafter, the President treated the Banda elephant with fruits on behalf of all elephants which participated in the pageant and also posed for a group photograph with the Devadana Nilame, Pradeep Nilangadala, Basnayaka Nilames and other state officials who directly contributed to the Perahara.
Senkadagala nuwara Asalata කරන පෙරහැර දෙවියන්ට රිසිකර පැවැත් වූයේ කලක සිට පෙර මේ වසරේ තේවාව.
The final Randoli pageant of the Asala Perahara ceremony in Kandy paraded the streets yesterday from 6:44 p.m. onwards. Nadungamui Raja, the ceremonial tusker, carried the sacred tooth relic casket at the Perahara.
Vidyadhara sakala agama nipuna bahu patanam Vregautama dhata muni pranamamita sara.
Indi Raja of the Temple of the Tooth and Vasana of the Kataragam Devalaya were the two accompanying elephants at the pageant. This year's pageant was held adhering to strict health guidelines without the attendance of the general public.
Idi Tilakaratna Mahata Pramukha.
The pageant, which commenced from the Temple of the Tooth, paraded along the Dalada Vidya, Yatinura Vidya, Kanda Vidya, Senanayaka Vidya and arrived at the Temple of the Tooth once more. President Gotabaya Rajapaksa and the First Lady Ayoma Rajapaksa, who obtained the blessings of the Temple of the Tooth last evening, also viewed this historic pageant from the President's house in Kandy. The water cutting ceremony, commonly known as the Diyakapime ceremony of the Satara Mahadevalaya, was held at the Gatame pier of the Mahavali river. Thereafter, the Dawal Perahara, which commenced from the Gedige temple at 1:42 p.m, paraded along the DS Senanayaka Vidya, Temple Road, Devala Vidya, Rajavidya and travelled thrice along the Temple of the Tooth Square. The pageant concluded thereafter.
Now, the Cabinet has decided to donate salaries of all Cabinet ministers for the month of August to the COVID-19 fund. This decision was made during the Cabinet meeting which took place this afternoon.
Minister Mahinda Amaraveera said the decision to donate salaries of all cabinet ministers for the month of August to the COVID-19 fund was made following a proposal presented to the cabinet during their meeting today. The minister further stated that salaries of the 14 ministers representing the Sri Lanka Freedom Party will be donated to the COVID-19 fund by tomorrow. Meanwhile, members of the parliament representing the Samagi Jana Balawegaya have already taken steps to donate their monthly salaries to purchase medical equipment required for COVID-19 treatment in the country. The Samagi Jana Balawegaya has already taken steps to create a parliamentary fund. This will provide funds that are required to purchase medical equipment for patients who have contracted COVID-19. This recommendation was proposed by our party leader Sajith Premadasa. Currently, we are in the process of obtaining these equipment for our members' fund. Pay cuts for state sector employees is a separate matter. As a strategic move, we believe that the government should reduce spending too much on capital expenditure and should take a decision to invest these funds to assist the people affected by the pandemic and especially patients who are suffering from COVID-19. As a Samagi Jana Balawegaya, we are ready to lead by example and we hope others too will follow our lead. Meanwhile, State Minister P.L. Nishantha expressed the following views regarding the donation of salaries.
All
I have to say is that there is no way for me to donate my salary. I have obtained a loan from the bank which is functioning within the parliament and have allocated my whole parliamentary salary to pay back this loan. Therefore, with my current economic status, I find it difficult to donate my full salary for this purpose. But I have some friends who are willing to donate 10 times the amount we earn, and I have already made the necessary arrangements for that. 2,000 rupee allowance to the public.
A program to provide a 2,000 rupee allowance to families who have lost their livelihood was initiated today. The program to provide the 2,000 rupee allowance was conducted in several areas of the country. The 2,000 rupee allowance will be provided until the 30th of this month to the people who are affected by this. However, if the health authorities request the government to continue the lockdown, we will consider the continuation of this program as well. Low-income families who had lost their livelihoods and are not currently receiving any other government benefit will be selected to receive the allowance.
How can the general public purchase essential items? Although all main economic centres situated island-wide were inoperative today, they will be open tomorrow and the day after according to a systematic plan. The farmers will be able to direct their harvest to economic centres. A mechanism is underway for the farmers to distribute their produce to the village through the divisional secretariat. Therefore, not a single farmer should panic unnecessarily, speculating a lack of sales. The Beta wholesale market was opened as usual today, and our correspondent said wholesale traders from other provinces had also travelled to the market today to purchase goods. Only a limited number of mobile vendors will be allowed to operate under the supervision of divisional secretaries. It is essential for all those mobile vendors to be vaccinated and they must be in possession of the vaccination card. Economic centres will open for trading tomorrow and the day after, even in the Colombo district. Hence, mobile vendors will be afforded the opportunity to travel to these economic centres and purchase goods in bulk. They can only engage in trading within the permitted area. No mobile vendors can engage in business by the roadside. If they engage in business away from the stipulated area, we will take legal action. Meanwhile, scores of people arrived at the Dowlagala Divisional Secretariat in Udunuwara this morning to obtain curfew passes to engage in trading. However, the media spokesperson of the police said no such issuance of curfew passes will take place. Due to certain practical difficulties we are facing at the moment, we will not issue permits of any kind through police stations or officers within the country. Although we are not issuing these permits, the IGP has given clear instructions to the police officers on the matter. Since the current curfew in effect is a quarantine curfew, there is no possibility for the police to issue any curfew permit. However, as I mentioned before, clear instructions have been given to police officers to inspect the documents and take appropriate action. Our cameras captured the flow of traffic which was witnessed at entry points to Colombo this morning. Despite the quarantine curfew in effect, a large number of people arrived in Colombo today. If we are to obtain a favorable outcome through this lockdown, at least 90% or more of the public should follow this lockdown or travel restrictions in effect. But if only 40 to 50% follow it, we will see similar results as well. Around 3 to 4 million of the public who are working are neglected through this lockdown in effect. They have not considered this category when imposing the lockdown. We kindly request the authorities to convert this to a lockdown which is based on science. There are infected patients among the community, and even after the lockdown, these patients are at their homes or at their workplaces. While that is the situation, they will continue to spread this virus. Therefore, we believe that if we don't restrict the movement of these patients, we won't be able to obtain a favorable result through this lockdown. We were at a critical juncture where there was no other option but to impose these restrictions. I think even though the government did not prefer imposing these restrictions at first, they too realized the necessity of it. Therefore, I trust this government. I sincerely believe that the government is trying their best to handle the situation. But it is not going to be an easy task to make this work. There are several reasons for this. One reason is that many of the frontline healthcare workers and military personnel have been infected with COVID-19. Therefore, the whole process is hampered. Hence, during this critical time, everyone should act patiently and try to do the best they can while extending a helping hand to others.
We urge the public to adhere to the travel restrictions imposed by the government at this critical hour. Limit your movement. Everyone should adapt to themselves to this situation as much as possible to make the most of this opportunity. The Colombo Stock Exchange reported its highest daily turnover since the 1st of February this year. Today's turnover was mainly driven by the retail sector. The Colombo Stock Exchange reported a daily turnover of 10.8 billion rupees today, with Brown's Investments and Sri Lanka holding trading the highest volume. The all-share price index gained 2.91% to close at 8,479.65, while the more liquid S&P SL20 gained 3.16% to close at 3,148.16.
Today we saw a significant market movement where the all-share price index moved up by around 239 points, one of the sharpest movements that we've seen in the recent time. And today, if you take the intraday, we saw the index on a continuous uptrend, and with that we saw complete retail dominance in the market today. The turnover levels exceeded 10 billion, to be exact 10.8 billion rupees of turnover was recorded today, the highest turnover that we've seen after the 1st of February 2021. That almost a 7-month high is what we are seeing, and similarly we are seeing a significantly high level of number of transactions today, 64,720 transactions. So it's about triple of the usual level of high level of transactions that we are seeing.
Let's now take a look at the COVID-19 situation for today.
Detection of COVID-19 cases. 4,353 COVID-19 cases were reported today, the 23rd of August 2021. We are at a critical juncture. As of now, the daily death toll is close to 200. During the past few days, the daily COVID-19 death toll was between 150 to 200. 88% of the deaths were above 60 years of age. More than 80% of the deceased have not received the vaccine. Moreover, more than 200 doctors are now infected with COVID-19, putting their lives at risk. Close to 3 doctors have died due to the virus. A novel revelation on the COVID-19 virus.
We have now completed postmortems of more than 100 people who have died due to COVID-19. Following the postmortems and examination of tissues, we have observed complications occurring on the lungs of those who are infected with COVID-19. This is not mentioned in any international medical journal till we made the revelation. We observed a complication called the acute lymphocytic interstitial pneumonitis. Everyone speaks of COVID pneumonia, but this specific complication occurs on the surface of the lungs. Through this complication, cells on the surface of the lungs are destroyed, leading to the walls of the lungs being damaged, named diffuse alveolar damage. Another complication named hyaline membrane formation also occurs. This occurs in the initial stages of the COVID-19 virus, affecting the lungs. COVID pneumonia often occurs due to a secondary bacterial infection. What we studied was treatment provided to lymphocytic interstitial pneumonitis is different to that of COVID pneumonia. That is the medical phenomenon we observed.
නිරීක්ෂණය කරපු මේ වෛද්‍ය විද්‍යාත්මක phenomenon එක.
Progress of the vaccination drive.
A consignment of 76,050 Pfizer vaccine doses reached the island this morning. The stock of vaccines are currently stored at the cold storage facility of the National Blood Transfusion Center in Narahimpita. In addition, another 1 million doses of the Sinopharm vaccine will reach Sri Lanka on Tuesday, and another 2 million doses of the same vaccine will reach the country on the 27th of August.
The required amount of the second dose of the Pfizer vaccine will be allocated to those who receive the first jab. If there is an excess of vaccines after providing the second dose, they will be further distributed through vaccination drives. We are targeting the population above the age of 30. Once that age category is 100% vaccinated, we will focus on the population between the ages of 18 and 30.
ඊළඟ ඉලක්ක ගත වෙලා තියෙන්නේ 18 සිට 30 දක්වා ඒ කණ්ඩායමට යොමු කිරීමට හැකියාව තියෙනවා. AstraZeneca දෙවන මාත්‍රාව දෙන්න දැන් තියෙනවද? AstraZeneca දෙවන මාත්‍රාව ලබා දීමට තව එන්නත්.
We will require more stocks of the AstraZeneca vaccine in the future required for the second dose. To my knowledge, the vials remaining after the vaccination drive will be brought to the central vaccine storage in order to redirect the vaccines to other areas. More stocks of medical oxygen arrive in Sri Lanka.
Another 40 tons of medical oxygen was brought into the island from Chennai, India this morning. The consignment was brought to the island by the Shakti vessel of the Sri Lanka Navy. Stocks of medical oxygen were transported to Sri Lanka on 2 previous occasions by the Sri Lankan naval ship Shakti and also the Indian naval ship named Shakti. Meanwhile, Commander of the Sri Lanka Navy Vice Admiral Nishant Ulugethanna arrived at the port of Colombo this morning and inspected the vessels.
Meanwhile, during a meeting today, Minister of External Affairs Professor G.L. Peris informed the Indian High Commissioner to Sri Lanka Gopal Bagle that Sri Lanka appreciates India's continuous support in combating the COVID-19 pandemic. The minister has further expressed gratitude to India for supplying liquid oxygen stocks using Indian naval vessels. The minister has further expressed his gratitude to India for the donation worth $15 million for the preservation and development of Buddhist cultural sites in Sri Lanka. The minister reiterated to the Indian High Commissioner that activities pertaining to that donation is under supervision.
The Sri Lanka Podujana Peramuna expressed its displeasure today over a letter addressed to the President by 10 constituent parties of the government requesting for a lockdown to be imposed. General Secretary of the SLPP Attorney at Law Sagar Karyawasam said the President would be requested to look into the matter. The letter in question was signed by representatives of 10 constituent parties including Vimal Veeravansha, Udaya Gammampila, Vasudevananayakara, Tiran Alas, Veerasumana Veerasinghe, Govinda Kumarathunga and Professor Thissa Vitarana.
This is not the first time such a situation occurred. Agreeing to a certain decision and then addressing the letters to the president against it would place the government in a difficult situation. It is wrong as well. Especially constituent parties should act more responsibly. They should engage in discourse and thereafter make decisions instead of addressing letters and sending them to the media. Stern action needs to be taken against it. We request the President to ensure such a situation does not arise in the country any further.
කැබිනට් මණ්ඩලයේදී සාකච්ඡා කරන්න නැතුව ජනාධිපතිතුමා එක්ක මේවා කියන්නේ නැතුව එළියට ඇවිල්ලා මෙහෙම මේ මාධ්‍ය නිවේදන දෙන්න තරම් මේ අයමත් මොකද්ද මේ තියෙන ගැටලුව මේ සන්දානය ඇතුළේ සන්දාන රජයක් වෙලා කැබිනට්.
This is not the first time such a situation occurred. Agreeing to a certain decision and then addressing the letters to the president against it would place the government in a difficult situation. It is wrong as well. Especially constituent parties should act more responsibly. They should engage in discourse and thereafter make decisions instead of addressing letters and sending them to the media. Stern action needs to be taken against it. We request the President to ensure such a situation does not arise in the country any further. They may have become a cat's paw of the international community. It is regrettable. They think this is a situation similar to Afghanistan. We can see the international community using our people as tools.
With regards to this cabinet meeting, we were not aware of it since we are not members of the cabinet. However, it has been reported that various views have been expressed by cabinet members. We were not able to express the stance of our party within the cabinet. We noted the ideas of our party in a scientific manner to the collection of parties. The document that our party agreed to sign states that in order to curb the spread of COVID-19 in the country, a lockdown must be imposed.
මොකද මේ වෙන්නේ කියන්නේ ඒ අය මේක විරුද්ධවාදීකමක් හැටියට දැකලාද මේ අපි ගතු ක්‍රියාමාර්ග.
They may try to interpret the decision we took in various ways. However, we took this decision after considering various facts.
අපි මේ පියවර ගත්තේ බොහොම හොඳින් කරුණු හොයලා බලලා. මේ ආණ්ඩුව කියන විදිහට යම් කුමන්ත්‍රණයක්ද මේ තියෙන්නේ? නෑ අත වශයෙන්ම කුමන්ත්‍රණයක් නෙවෙයි.
No, this is not a conspiracy. Decisions are not made following a discussion with the leaders of the Sri Lanka Nidahas Podujana Alliance. Currently, we are facing a serious crisis. At that moment, we presented our collective stance to the President following discussions.
සකස් කරගෙන ඒක ජනාධිපතිතුමාට දන්වන එක තමයි මෙතෙන්දී සිද්ධ වුණේ.
His Excellency the President took this decision considering the state of the health sector and since he could not avoid the recommendations made by the health sector. His decision was not based on the views of political parties. The question about the economic drawbacks the country will face is on everyone's mind. We are of the stance that the country must open after next week.
Welcome back to the news. A probe has commenced over an incident where parliamentarian Richard Baldwin had allegedly threatened a prison's doctor. Now, two separate investigations will be carried out by the police and prisons department over the matter.
A doctor attached to the magazine prison had lodged a complaint with the Barella police, claiming he had received death threats from parliamentarian Baldwin. The IGP had thereafter directed the complaint to the Colombo Crimes Division for further investigations. In addition to this, the prison spokesperson said the prisons department is also conducting an investigation into the incident under the supervision of an assistant superintendent. While the doctor was treating some inmates, parliamentarian Richard Baldwin had arrived all of a sudden. Due to the rush created inside the clinic and mainly because of the current health situation, the doctor had asked the MP to remain outside until he is called. At that moment, MP Richard Baldwin has made a death threat to this doctor. Following this verbal assault, the doctor had lodged a written complaint to the Commissioner General of Prisons, to the IGP, the Director General of Health Services and the Secretary to the Ministry of Health as well. Meanwhile, the court has given permission to name parliamentarian Richard Baldwin as the fifth suspect in the cases filed over the death of 16-year-old Jude Kumar Ishalini, a domestic aide who died while employed at the parliamentarian's residence in Colombo. The permission was granted by court after considering a request made by the Deputy Solicitor General Dilip Piris, who appeared for the state. Colombo Additional Magistrate Rajendra Jayasuriya ordered the Superintendent of Prisons to produce the parliamentarian to court on the 6th of next month. 4 other suspects who were arrested over the case were remanded until the 6th of September. Police have so far arrested 4 suspects, including the parliamentarian's spouse, in connection with the death of a 16-year-old girl at the parliamentarian's residence. Richard Baldwin's family initially said that the girl had been burnt by a gas fire. However, the Deputy Solicitor General pointed out to the court that according to the statements given by the 2 healthcare workers of the suicide ambulance that took her to the hospital, and based on the statements given by the doctors and nurses who treated her, it is evident that an odour similar to that of kerosene oil was emanating from her body. The Deputy Solicitor General also said that based on the second autopsy report submitted to court by the 3-member panel of forensic experts, it is evident that the girl had been sexually abused over a long period of time.
Up next is Crime Watch.
The police said that the post-mortem examination of the death of a person arrested by the Matukama police is to be conducted tomorrow. Police media spokesman attorney at law SSP Nihal Thalduwa stated that the PCR of the body was done today and the test report is to be received tomorrow. A 42-year-old resident of the Yatidolavatta area who was arrested by the Matukama police has died last afternoon. Police say that the suspect has been arrested in connection with the sale of illicit liquor. The broom was near the wall. They assaulted him using the broom. They slapped him twice and took him away in a 3-wheeler.
අපිට පොලිසියට ගියාට පස්සේ කිව්වේ ඉන්න ගයක් හදලා දෙන්නම් මලගෙදර කටයුතු ඔක්කොම කරන්නම් මේක අත්තර ගන්න කියලා. අපි කොහෙම කරන්නේ නැහැ කියලා.
Meanwhile, hospital spokeswoman stated that the victim had died on arrival at the hospital and that his body was taken to the Nagoda hospital for an autopsy. An investigation has been launched by a superintendent of police to conduct investigation into the alleged assault.
For your country and for yourself, get vaccinated.
After taking the 2 vaccines, I feel much more safer and confident, not for just myself, for others, and more importantly, for my family. So I appeal to you, take your vaccines and be responsible citizens. We will fight this COVID together.
A message to all senior citizens from News First.
Meanwhile, the United National Party has issued a statement calling into question the current government's decision to officially recognize the Taliban as the governing body of Afghanistan. In the statement, UNP member Sudat Jayasundara stated that Sri Lanka's decision to recognize Taliban has made the country one of the first to officially acknowledge the group's ascent to power, while the rest of the world proceeds with caution. He adds that the government has recognized a group that is yet to officially form a government and said the Taliban are still in negotiation with other groups to form a government. The statement goes on to note that as a country that has suffered at the hands of terrorist groups, it is essential that the government proceeds with caution. The statement questions as to why the government has recognized a group that was responsible for the destruction of the Bamiyan Buddha statues in Pakistan back in 2001 and said that for Sri Lanka to recognize such a group, they will have to immediately issue an apology to the global Buddhist community over the destruction of the Bamiyan statues. The statement finally notes that the government's decision to recognize the Taliban has made the country a laughingstock in the international arena. In more local news, a report titled Social Media, the Law and Electoral Integrity, an analysis of existing legal provisions was launched today by the #Generation.
#Generation is an organization led and run by a group of young tech-savvy Sri Lankans advocating for meaningful civic and political participation of youth. During the 2019 presidential and 2020 parliamentary election, #Generation operated a social media newsroom which observed these elections with an eye on monitoring and responding to any threats to electoral integrity, including online hate speech, disinformation, coordinated harassment and online violations of election law. This was the first operation of its kind in Sri Lanka. Drawing from its experience, in partnership with the Asia Foundation, #Generation undertook an analysis of existing election-related laws that apply to social media during election periods. A consolidated report, Social Media, the Law and Electoral Integrity, an analysis of existing legal provisions.
Still in local news, the Judicial Service Commission states that the recent seminar for judges was conducted with the aim of educating the judges on the matters of timely importance. Now, issuing a statement, the Judicial Services Commission has stated that this clarification was made in response to certain comments made by various parties based on parliamentarian Andrew Kumar Dissanayaka's recent statement in Parliament.
The statement issued by the Judicial Service Commission points out that this particular workshop was not organized by the Judicial Service Commission. The statement further notes that the workshop for judges was organized by the Sri Lanka Judges Institute in accordance with its powers and functions. The Judicial Services Commission points out that such seminars are held for judges on matters of timely importance on various occasions. The letter further states that this particular event was organized on matters relating to judicial proceedings in the context of the COVID-19 pandemic. The statement states that the particular workshop was organized with the aim of educating the judges on the special circulars issued by the Ministry of Health on conducting court proceedings during the pandemic. The letter further states that aspects regarding the Quarantine Act, Criminal Procedure Code, Penal Code and the analysis of legal status of public prosecution in accordance with the provisions of the Constitution were also discussed during this workshop. The Judicial Services Commission emphasizes that the format of the letter used to summon the judges to the workshop was based on a 10-year-old draft that was being used to organize similar events over the years. The statement further notes that Section 3 of this letter was included in the draft letter to confirm the attendance of the judges. The statement further states that seminars and workshops for judges are organized at the expense of the public funds, and in such a situation, participants failing to attend these events would be a waste of public funds and the objective of the event will not be achieved.
We leave you tonight with the remarks made by His Excellency the President at the conclusion of the Asala Maha Perahara. For the Newsfirst team, I'm Yuki Portia, along with our sign language interpreter Tharaka Gabriel via Zoom. Take care and good night.
We have a number of responsibilities we have to commit no matter what challenges the country is facing. The matter of conducting the Asala Perahara has been a matter of utmost prominence throughout history. We managed to send an example to our future generations that even amidst the pandemic, we managed to complete our historic duty. We see this effort as a commitment for our country and its people.
අපිට හැකි වුණා. දලදා සමිඳුන් වෙනුවෙන් කරන කැපවීම රටක් ජාතියක් වෙනුවෙන් කරන කැපවීමක් හැටියට අපි සලකනවා.